Good morning, Hidaka Guy here. Just out here early this morning to change oil on our 2017 Sprinter van. And the last time that I did this, I took a bunch of pictures and made a couple posts on it. And several people asked me to record it and do a video of the process. So figured I would record it this time and show you guys from start to finish how I'm changing oil in my 2017 Sprinter. With that being said, let's look at all the supplies and the materials that we're going to need, and then we'll jump right into it. So these are all the materials and the tools that we're going to need for this process. Today I will be changing engine oil, oil filter, cabin air filter, and engine air filter. To do that today, I'm going to use 12.5 quarts of the Mercedes-Benz genuine oil. We'll talk a little bit more about oil when I start the filling process. You're going to need, you can see here, I'm going to use all MAN filters, but you need a new engine oil filter, cabin air filter, and engine air filter. I'll show you the MAN filter. I'll just kind of zoom in on each one so you can see the part numbers. There's the cabin air filter, and there's the engine air filter. Along with this, you're going to need a few tools. You're going to need a screwdriver with a T25 Torx bit to remove the top of the air cleaner assembly, a ratchet with the adapter to pull the oil cover, the oil housing top off. This is a Motive Tools, looks like it's a MX2324. This fits and works perfectly. You can get these on Amazon. Crush washer for the engine drain plug. You don't have to replace that every time. You can use the old one several times. 13mm socket to remove the drain plug, and a little tiny screwdriver to remove the O-rings on the oil filter housing cover. I'll show you that here in just a little bit. I usually use grease. I like to take grease and put it on the seal around the air cleaner. It just gives you a little more added security that fine dust is not going to work its way around the filter. I'll show you that process here shortly. Some nitrile gloves, a roll of paper towels, and of course coffee. Can't do anything without coffee. And then down here we've got a bucket. I just took a plastic barrel and a small plastic barrel, and I cut it to make a drain pan. And then I use these 7-gallon containers from Walmart. They're for water, but they work great for oil. So once that gets full, I just take it down to my local recycling center and dump it off, pour it out, and bring it back and ready for the next time. So those are all the supplies we need. Give you a quick walkthrough of the engine bay before we get started. So you got your oil fill, got your dipstick down there to check level. This is the air cleaner assembly. You can see right down here is the oil filter. And there's a couple ways to do this. You don't have to take all this off. You can pop this lid up here, put the air filter in. You can pull this and kind of snake the oil filter right out of here. Or you can, with just a couple extra small steps, you can remove this whole assembly and not have any of this in the way when you do your oil filter, which is how I'll show you today. So, alrighty, well, let's get the gloves on and dive into it. Okay, we're under the van. We have our bucket positioned, and we just grab the 13mm here, break it free, then we'll just back it out. Keep a little bit of pressure on that bolt as you're backing it out. That way when it comes free, you can kind of keep that fluid from pouring out, and then just pop it to the side. There we go. Set your drain plug to the side. And we'll just let that drain into the bucket. Okay, first thing we're going to do is remove the electrical sensors here. So to do that, you just squeeze these little tabs and pull back, and they pop off. Squeeze this one, pull back, and then right down here, this is just a spring clip. If you grab it and twist, it just pops off, and then you can just kind of tilt those back out of the way. We'll take our screwdriver, loosen up our piping here, Going from the air box to the turbo. And then we can just pop that free like that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is pop our jump start terminal here. So if you twist and push this in, you can see there's an electrical terminal that you can put your jump starting cables on. We want to pop this out of the way. There's a tab right underneath on the bottom. If you take your finger and just push that tab in and lift, this assembly just pops off. You can just let that hang. And then we're going to move over here to, I'll just re-angle. Next thing we're going to do is pop this intake off. So if you grab this part right here and just kind of pull up, it just pops out. So that's free now. And then the next thing we do is pop these two up. So if you just lift, these are just attached in rubber right there, and then the whole thing is free. Now that the whole thing is free, it just pops out like that. And you can take the entire air cleaner assembly and set it off to the side. Okay, now that the top of the air cleaner is out of the way, we can easily get to our oil filter. So we'll change our oil filter, and then we will change the air filter, and then just pop the assembly back into place. This is a good opportunity with the air filter out of the way just to do a general inspection. I like to look over everything and make sure we don't have any leaks anywhere, any hoses starting to swell or look funny, you know, any leaks around your resonator. Just kind of give it everything a quick once over. Make sure everything looks good, and everything here is looking good. Your fuel filter sits right down in here. Let's see if I can give you a better view. So your fuel filter is right here. So if I was going to change the fuel filter, I would do the exact same process, pop the air filter assembly out of the way, and then you can easily get to that fuel filter. My fuel filter is not due yet, but next time it is due, I'll do a quick video on how to change the fuel filter. So let's re-angle the camera a little bit, and let's get down there and change that oil filter. So to change the oil filter, we're going to use that adapter on the ratchet. You just put it right there, and then you can just start turning, and we will back that cap off. Once it gets loose to that point, you can just take this off. You don't need it anymore. You can do the rest by hand. Let me get my gloves back on. Okay, so now we will finish taking that lid off. Carefully lift it up, and then flip it over so you don't make a mess. So we will set this assembly to the side. There's an O-ring here and an O-ring right here that we're going to change here in a second, so we'll get to that in just a second. Set that to the side. Then we can grab the oil filter itself, lift it up, kind of hold it there and let it drip back into the filter body there. Then I take a rag, pick it up so you don't dribble all over the place, and you can set the filter down in a bucket. So once you have the oil filter out and sitting in a container, I always like to take a quick spot check. Take a look at that oil filter, make sure there's no metal shavings, filings, anything weird or suspicious. This filter looks really good, nice and clean. Inside of the filter looks good. So yep, just a typical used oil filter. So we'll set that in the container and set this over to the side. Now we're going to start working on our filter cap here. We're going to change these two O-rings. So there's two O-rings on here. There's an O-ring right here, this big O-ring, and then there's a small O-ring right here. Both of these will get changed out. They come in the kit with the oil filter. A couple words of caution here. We'll take our screwdriver, pop this O-ring off, and I'll show you here. So there's a fat groove right here where this O-ring goes. If you get the O-ring seated too far, you can get it down here on this flat part by the cap and it will leak. So when you put this new O-ring on, make sure it's in this wide groove right here and not all the way down. And then same with this little one here. We'll just take our screwdriver. We can actually just pop this assembly out. Take our screwdriver, get underneath that O-ring, and then just pop it off right there. So this just snaps in. Right there, just like that. So let me grab the new O-rings and we will put them back on. So this is the new kit. Pull it out. We've got a filter. We've got a drain plug gasket. Put the filter back in the box, and here's our two O-rings. So we'll open that up. I like to take a little bit of oil, just kind of dab a little bit of oil and rub it around, lubricate that new O-ring. Then we're just going to slide it right onto the top, just like that. So we have our new O-ring there. Then we're going to take a little bit of the old oil, just lubricate that O-ring up. Then we're going to just work it right back onto the housing, and it's going to go right in that wide groove right there. Just like that. So now we have our new O-ring on, that O-ring on, and we're ready to put that back together. Okay, so I slid the oil filter onto the housing, so that's nice and snug. Now we're going to take the whole assembly, just push it down in, start it. And then we'll get our tool again real quick. Drop our adapter on and just slightly keep snugging it up. This is an O-ring it's relying on the O-ring for the seal, so you do not need to over tighten this. You don't want it loose, but you just need to snug it up good. The O-ring will do the seal, so right there is tight. Just going to go just snug past that and call it good. No need to wrench down on it super tight. Now the oil filter is in, so let's move back to the air cleaner. Okay, so now we've got the air filter on the work table here. So we're going to use our T25 torque bits, and we're going to loosen all of these fasteners around the edge of the air cleaner, which hold the top of the air cleaner onto the housing. Loosen all of these up. These are captured, so they won't come all the way out, so you just got to get them loose. So you can do this on the vehicle as well. You don't have to take this whole thing off. It does make the getting to the filter a little bit easier. And last one here. There we go. So once you get all of these, you just lift up and pull forward and it comes off. So you can see there's these little catches on the back that hook into here. So you just lift those up. This side should be nice and clean. If you have any dust leaking by, this is your clean side. A good way to tell if you do a lot of off-roading and you're in a lot of fine dust, you can take a little bit of white lithium grease. Just put a small smear of white lithium grease in there. Next time you change your filter, look at that grease and see if there's any dirt stuck to it. If there's any dirt at all stuck to that white lithium grease on this side, dirt is getting around that filter. Here's the old one. I just did a road trip, so more than likely it's not too dirty. Let's take our little deal here, lift up on the filter. There we go. Got a few bugs, you can see. Picked up a bunch of bugs on the trip. And you can see there's a bunch of bugs and stuff in the bottom. So another advantage of taking this whole assembly off to change this filter is that you can easily dump or clean this out. So I can just shake this out, clean it all out. When it's on the rig, I usually take a vacuum and I'll go in here and vacuum anything out that's that happened to make it into this side of the airbox. But for now, we will just take a rag and we will wipe this out real good. Get it clean here. Okay, got the inside wiped out. Now we're gonna get ready to put our new filter in. That filter probably could have been shaken out and reused, but I've got a big trip coming up and I'm probably gonna be doing some off-roading, so I wanna make sure that I've got a fresh, clean filter. So another thing that I do there, again, to keep that small dust from getting in, is I'll use some kind of axle grease, and then I'll just take it and just smear a little bit of grease all along that seal. You don't need a ton, just enough to make it all wet. So basically what this does is prevents any fine dust from making it around this rubber seal and into your airbox side, which you don't want. This is a pretty common trick, dirt bikes, off-roading trucks. It works really well. So there again, if you ever do the white lithium test and you find that you're getting leaked by, go ahead and put a little bit of grease in on your seal and seal it up good. Some rigs are worse than others. The Sprinter actually seems to seal fairly well. A lot of Toyota pickups are terrible. The Tacomas, quite a bit of dust gets by those, so it's really important to put this on and seal that up well. So yep, so now what we'll do is we'll just drop this back in there, work it down in. Like so. Okay, there we go. Then we'll just put the top back on. There again, to put the top back on, you just hook these in the top and then drop it in. And then we'll just screw these back down real quick. Using your T25 Torx. And I just like to bounce around and do it nice and evenly. Snug them up. Okay, now we're going to drop our airbox back in. So if you'll see on the back of the airbox are these notches, and here's these two rubber deals. Those just slide on. So you line those up and push those in. Oops, there we go. Then, if you can see, line these pieces up here, and you just push those back down, and then pop that back in. That is all back. Take your intake hose, push that back on. Take your clip, stick that back on. Push those back in until they click. There we go. So those are all in. Now we'll walk around to the other side. We'll take our 12-volt jump start connection, just line that up with the top, push it down. That is in. And we'll take our screwdriver, tighten up our hose clamp. on the intake. There we go. So the air filter is all back together. It literally takes, less than a minute to remove that whole assembly, put it back on. Like I said, with it off, it's easier to clean it out. You don't have to work your oil filter around it. So I usually just pop this whole assembly off when I change it. So that is all back together. So let's get the drain plug back in and we'll get some oil back in this baby. Okay, so it's just barely dripping now, so we're going to get the drain plug back in. I'll start it there, run it in by hand. I've got the new crush washer on. The drain plug gets torqued to 22 foot-pounds. I'm pretty used to feeling this, so I usually don't use a torque wrench. Snug it up. Right about there is where I'm going to call it good. You do not want to over torque the drain plug. It is aluminum. You don't want to strip it out. So if you're unsure of feeling it, just use a torque wrench. There again, I usually do use a torque wrench on most things, but drain plug, I've got a pretty good feel for that. So snug that up and we'll move back to the top. Now we're going to fill the oil back up. So remove the oil cap, take a clean funnel, stick your funnel in, and then we'll start adding the oil. So I am using the Mercedes-Benz, their OEM oil. I get it for about the same price as the Mobil 1 ESP or Emission System Protection oils. You do want to use one of these two oils with this particular engine. They don't have, this particular oil does not have all the good vitamins and minerals that is actually better for your motor. This oil is actually formulated to protect your emission system, so won't clog your diesel particle filter up, etc., etc. If you did not have the emission systems, then there's other oils that would actually be better to run for the engine itself, but the next best thing you can do is to change oil often. So I do not follow the manufacturer's recommendation on changing oil. I like to change oil about 5,000 miles, anywhere between 5 and 7. If I'm on a road trip and it goes over a little bit, I'm not too concerned, but I do like to change it about the 5,000 mark. This oil right here actually has a little less than that on it. I'm about 4,000 miles on this one, but I'm getting ready to go on another trip and I do not want to go way over, so I'm just going to put some fresh oil in it and start fresh. So yeah, one of the best things you can do for these engines is to change oil early and often. Just extends the life of the motor. The other thing is I am only filling this engine with 12.5 quarts. So the book calls for 13 quarts of oil. If you fill it with the full 13 and you get out on the highway and you start driving, the oil will get up to temperature and expand, and you're actually going to be over full. So what you'll get is you'll get a light on your dash that'll pop up saying that your oil is over full, and then you'll have to try to drain some out a little bit to get that to go away. So 12 quarts is fine, 12.5 quarts. So if you want to add 12.5 quarts, that allows a little bit of room for that expansion, and you won't have any issues when the oil's all the way up to temp. So I'll continue to add the rest of the 12.5 quarts, and I'll see you in just a second. Okay, we have our oil back in, the cap's back on, so we have 12.5 quarts of oil in there. The next thing and the last thing that I want to do is to change the cabin air filter, and this is about the easiest part of the whole process. So basically you see these two tabs right here, just push down on this, pop it out from those tabs, and the filter just pops up. You can see I've got a little bit of stuff in there. This is not that old either. So we'll take our new filter, And you'll see these tabs here. The tabs go facing out, so you want to slide it in like this. Just slide it down in there. It'll drop into a little notch. Then just push it and slide it home until it pops up. And it'll pop up and catch underneath there, and you're in. So we've got a new cabin air filter installed now. And the last thing that I'm going to do is just jump in the rig and start it up and check for leaks. Okay, we just want to take a nice little look around. Make sure you look at the oil cap down there. No oil leaking around the cap. That's nice and tight. Then we'll take a quick peek underneath just to make sure that no oil is leaking from the drain plug. That's all looking great. Yeah, so everything's looking good. We've got fresh oil, fresh filters. Good for another little bit now. Hopefully this will help you do your own changes. You can save quite a bit of money doing these by yourself. It is not that complicated. You can buy the materials for far less than a dealership is going to charge you. Dealership prices for an oil change on these are all over the map. I mean, I've heard anything from $250 up to, $500-600 for an oil change, and there is nothing complicated or special on a Sprinter versus any other vehicle out there, like a Toyota or a Honda. There's nothing special about it. So make sure you put those O-rings in the right locations on that filter housing. That's probably the biggest thing. You do not want to forget that small O-ring. If you remove that and don't put it back on, that's going to be a very expensive lesson because that will waste your engine. So make sure you have those those O-rings in place. And other than that, it's just pretty much straightforward. So anyways, hopefully this video helped and hopefully you found it useful. I'll talk to you later.